it was great on the level of being in the room with those guys again and seeing that fucking magic of the four of us. The four of us, boom, there it is. The power of four. And it was beautiful. It gave me such a smile and a feeling of like, yeah, we can do this and we can do it right now.
Welcome to the XS Noize Podcast, the chart-topping music interview show. I'm your host, Mark Millar. If you missed our last episode, I spoke with Moira Brennan from Clannad, the First Lady of Celtic music, so be sure to check it out. In this episode, I'm joined by a true legend of British music, Gary "Manny" Mounfield, the bass powerhouse behind the Stone Roses and Primal Scream. From the groove-laden pulse of I Am the Resurrection to the raw, defiant energy of Exterminator, Manny's bass lines have defined the sound and attitude of British rock for over 3 decades. In this conversation, Manny looks back on the early days of the Stone Roses, recording Second Coming, joining Primal Scream, and the resurrection of the Roses. We talk about life on the road, the madness, the brotherhood, survival, joy, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with the one and only Manny here on the XS Noize Podcast. So hi Manny, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Good to be here, my friend.
It's great to have you on.
Brilliant.
Hey Manny, I know you've seen some mad crowds in your time, but what's more nerve-wracking, walking on at Heaton Park or logging on to a Zoom interview at 10 in the morning?
I'll tell you what was the more nerve-wracking was got a sign on the door the morning after I'd been on top of the pops and hoping nobody had watched it, you know.
What performance was that?
That could have been, probably was Fool's Gold, you know.
Love that their performance. There's the one, the same episode when you were on the Mondays and you were planning on swapping round.
Oh, it was carnage, right? Mate. Absolute carnage and miming as well. So you can say we were all suitably refreshed, should we say, on the day. And boy, did we know how to get suitably refreshed back in those days. If I tried it now, my bloody leg would fall off, you know.
So, Manny, what first pulled you towards the bass? Was there a player, a record, or a moment that made you think, this is my lane?
Well, do you know, I started out on just playing rhythm guitar, you know, trying to emulate being in the Clash or the Pistols or the Buzzcocks or something back in the day. I used to be in a band with Clint Boone out in Spiral Carpets way before the Carpets and the Roses took off. Just used to play pubs and do cover versions, Joy Division covers and stuff like that, you know, and he just asked me to play the bass and I picked it up and it just felt nice, you know. Less strings. I've always gravitated more towards reggae music and funk music, so the bass was always a driving factor for me in music. And I would listen to the bass more than I'd listen to a lyric line, you know. I still do it now when I go out. I drift off into bloody Maniland, don't I? And it's like, oh yeah, he's studying somewhere. Whether it be watching a live band or out in a club, I'm immediately trying to work out how it's happening, you know.
I mean, you were right there at the heart of the early Manchester scene, you know, that mix of chaos and confidence before the world caught on. What do you remember most vividly about that period?
Well, I used to go watching the lads before I was eventually in them. I used to be in a band with John Squire many years ago called The Waterfront, and I left going around Europe and he started the Roses off, and I used to go watching them all the time. There was a right mob of us. It was violent, man. Some of them gigs were chaotic and there'd be fights and all kinds of shit going down. Nothing like the 60s psychedelic love vibes we engendered in the late 80s. But I always kind of had a feeling I would end up in them. It was destiny brought us together, and Ian Brown said I was the final piece of the jigsaw, and you know, it was easy for me to transition into them because we've been friends. Myself, Ian and John had been friends from the scooter scene in Manchester. We all were scooter boys and stuff like that, and I still ride them now, still got Lambrettas and all that. So it was an easy transition for me to say goodbye to whatever this rubbish job I had at the time and leave that behind and join the band. And it was great. Final piece of the jigsaw. And it was just wonderful every day, all signing on the door. Nothing to do but go in this little bummy room and just kick ideas and grooves around. And the first album, they've probably had maybe 4 or 5 of the songs in embryonic form written before I'd even joined. So I just came in and put my stamp on those. And then we progressed to writing things like Made of Stone and Resurrection and Shoot You Down and, yeah, all this kind of stuff. And it took me a little while to grow into their level of playing, because they were always good. To play with a drummer like Reni when you're quite a novice on the bass, it's some bloody feat, that. And it's, I learned a hell of a lot very quickly by the seat of my pants, It was needs must.
Ian said, when you joined, the band changed overnight. The whole groove and energy just clicked into place, as you said. But how did those songs usually come together in the Roses? Was it John bringing in riffs, Ian lyrics, you contributing the bass, or did the magic just happen when everybody was in the room?
Well, John and Ian would ordinarily, they'd come up with like a melody and a lyric line. For me, with my bass, I always wrap myself around the vocals pretty much. I had the job of trying to knit everyone together because I have to wrap around the vocal, then sit in with the drummer, and then do something that's a counterpoint to the guitar melody as well. So it's quite a tricky thing to do. But ordinarily, they'd come in with an idea. And then what we used to just do was every day, we just kick ideas about and say no, and we change this, we change that. And right up until the tapes were rolling in the studio, everything was up for change. We're always on a quest to perfect whatever it was we were doing at that time. And perfection can never be achieved, and people get tied up in knots with it. There's a few guys out there who can never get to finish stuff. But it was just really fluid, really natural. Everything was an open book. You weren't told you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It was a complete freedom thing, which I love to operate under those circumstances. It was the same way with the Scream, even freer in a lot of ways. Everyone's free to do what they want. And, I could have done something on the bass with the Roses or the Scream, and then it took the song off in another direction. And it's the same goes for any other member of the band. I think all you can do is rely on each corner to fulfill his job to the best of his potential at that time, and hope everyone else does the rest, Do
you have an example of that? A song where you did something on the bass and it just completely changed it?
Well, I think that thing, that might have kicked into us. It was myself, John and Reni then. And we sat down and we had like notes on our legs with changes. And we threw the end of Resurrection down pretty much in one take, I just went on with eyeballing each other and go and change this, nods this, in that. And that was a very spontaneous thing. I wouldn't say what I did influenced it, but it just went, oh, right, now we can go do this. I think the bass line in Kowalski with Primal Scream as well really, really opened that song up. And that was my first time of recording with them. They invited me down to Ocean Colour Scenes studio in Birmingham where they were recording with Brendan Lynch. And I went down with my brother Greg for a bit of all support. And the first time I've heard the song is when I've tuned my bass up and plugged in. And it just flew out on me from nowhere. And I packed my gear up and said to that and went home. Didn't hear nothing for 3 or 4 days. And I thought, oh, you fucking blown it, And then next thing you know, I've got my gear and all of them going absolutely nuts on the phone, going, amazing, this, that, and the other, So that's me in there then, you know what I mean? So that was the maddest 16-year ride of my life.
You mentioned Resurrection. For me, one reason the debut album's so special is how it begins and ends. The perfect opener with I Want to Be Adored and the perfect closer with I Am the Resurrection. I mean, that outro still makes the hairs stand on the back of my neck every time I hear it.
We just basically, we winged it, and we had, like, we had notes sellotape to our thighs and we're looking and then eyeball. And it just felt so natural. Every day's rehearsals were like that. We'd just sit there, jamming and feeling each other out and exploring each other's weaknesses and how to improve each other as players. We all really helped each other along, and it's a beautiful thing, to coin a phrase. It is a beautiful thing when that's in action. there's a kind of a high magic where music's concerned in creativity terms like that, that you just can't put your finger on or explain what it is. It's just something that comes boom, right out of the ether, and you channel into it and tap into it and then go with it,
Well, you certainly tapped into it with the debut album. When you were recording the album with John Leckie, did you sense how special it was then? And what did John Leckie bring out of you that defined the record sound, do you think?
Well, the John Leckie thing, for me, right, I used to really like this Dukes of the Stratosphere albums by XTC under a psychedelic different guys, I just thought the sounds were amazing, like really 60s psychedelic, Beatlesy, Sgt. Peppersy kind of sounds. And I just thought, I think that would probably work well with us. They probably played Ian and John the album a couple of times and went, yeah, this guy would be worth a shot. I think we knew the power of the songs that we had. A lot of that album was pretty much, I would say 80% written before we started recording it, and there was a few little bits of change in there. But I think Leckie did a great job on that. Could have stuck a bit more bottom ending for me, but as a musician, you're never happy with anything you've ever done. There's a quest for perfection, which it's like the grapes of wrath, You're never going to get it. You can get tantalizingly close, but you never quite can have that, But Leckie was a good guy. I think he did a great job with it. What I find the most incredible is for LP, it must be coming on 40 years old, almost. It just still sounds so bloody fresh. Records date. Some records will date a year later, they'll sound dated. That record, I don't know what we hit there, but that record is going to sound as pristine and beautiful as it does forever, We've done one of those Rites of Passage albums there, like Pink Floyd's, Dark Side of the Moon and Forever Changes by Love. And these are albums that they've tapped into something, and there's a hidden power out there that only music could unlock,
Yeah, well, look at how many people form bands because of that album.
Well, do you know what? Still start charging somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's a nice feeling when you've got someone like Richard Ashcroft or someone like Liam Gallagher telling you who are fucking enormous, not just characters, but music people, And when they're citing you as an influence and a reason why they have picked up, I think one of our mandates with the Stone Roses was, it's not a closed shop, this. Anyone can do it. If we can, why not you? And it's nice to know that we have spurred a few people on from doing that. That's mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. I can't speak on behalf of the other guys, but I'm sure they would think in quite a similar vein, Well,
Elephant Stone didn't quite take off at first, but by the time She Bangs the Drums hit, everything changed. How did that sudden shift in attention feel from the inside?
Well, we knew the power of the songs, and people used to call us a bunch of arrogant bastards, but it wasn't arrogance. It was just 1,000,000% confidence and self-belief in what we had. We knew what we had, and we knew the power of what we had and where it was going to take us. When we signed that ridiculous Somber Silvertone deal, we knew we'd be in trouble 2 years down the line, and we also knew we would be bloody massive 2 years down the line. That we knew that was coming, but we had to sign that deal because we had to get that record out. We couldn't sit on it any longer, the time was now, and we were ready. Yeah, you quoted the song She Bangs the Drums. What an absolutely magnificent piece of music. That still makes the hackles on the back of my neck stand up every time I hear it. It's just timeless. How the fuck have we managed to do that? But we have,
And then Fool's Gold, it became an anthem that defined an era, even though it started as a B-side. What do you remember how that track came together, and when did you realise it had taken on a life of its own?
Well, the Fool's Gold thing is, we just wanted to try something different. We were always pushing the boundaries of exploration with musically, and we never want to be that kind of band who just pumps the same old crap out with every record they make, and it's boring. That we like the danger of of rock and roll, and taking chances and doing things that aren't the ordinary, like, the gigs we used to do would make them an event rather than just another, who's on, what night is it? Tuesday, who's on, let's go see them. We try to make that different. But the Fool's Gold thing, we would, obviously, we've been going out clubbing and, ingesting the house scene, and, we're always me and Ian, especially with real hip-hop fans and reggae fans, and there was a hip-hop record called Know How by Young MC, which, if you listen, there's a similarity there. But we were vibing off that, and I think it's like osmosis. If you listen to something often enough, and it'll permeate its way into your thing. So we just, Joe, the Fool's Gold thing, to play it at first, it was difficult because there's so much space in that the song. I think the space is what makes the song work as much as anything. And trying to recreate that live was a little bit of a bugbear at first. Then we managed to pull it right off on the Reform, the Reformation tour, because we just turned it into 17 minutes of fucking mental musical the voyage, and that was nice to play with things. And if you listen back to any of the times we played it in the Reform years, there's a few little nods to a few other songs in there. There's a bit of Chic, there's a bit of Beatles, there's a bit of Motorhead, there's a bit of all sorts thrown in it. We created a monster. We really did with that. And you know what? It's a Dancefloor filler, and there's 4 beige guys. Reni obviously had a bit more flavour than we three. To be then sampled off Run DMC with bits of stuff and stuff like that. And that's kind of like Master Doff's cap to student, kind of thing. But you tell me anything else that sounded like Fool's Gold from that time? A white guitar band doing a dance crossover kind of thing. It was trying to keep that danger, not do the expected. I think when that hit people's turntables, are like, what the fuck are they up to now? Primal Scream are very much the same from LP to LP. People never knew what to expect from them, And I think that's good, that. I like the danger of that and the guessing game you play with people, Yeah,
and it's mad that it was considered to be a B-side initially.
Well, it was going to be the B-side of What the World is Waiting For, and it soon developed this life, and it became clearly apparent that, do you know what, right? There was no such thing as B-sides with the Stone Roses. Songs are songs, right? And if you listen to so many supposed B-sides, like Mersey Paradise and Standing Here and Where Angels Play, man, them B-sides are better than a lot of bands' A-sides, you know what I mean? Yeah. We just treated everything as a song, and let's give it the best treatment you can at that time. But Fool's Gold, it assumed this life of its own, and it soon became apparent that it was more than just a B-side, And it was beautiful to watch it grow, and the confusion on people's faces when we first dropped it, but then the absolute joy of, transporting them via that song when we played live or at Dancefloors was just, that's the money shot,
Yeah, and it still sounds fantastic today.
Amazing, mate. Listen, I don't know what we did, but the music hasn't dated whatsoever for me, which is, it's hard to do,
People say you and Reni shared a telepathy. What made that rhythm section so instinctive?
Well, I had to learn so much from Reni. Reni was just an enigma, that guy, and I was on catch up as soon as I joined that band. So I learned so much about melody and what have you from John and Ian, and taught myself how to wrap myself around the vocal and counterpoint melodies with John's guitar. But on a groove thing, Reni has taught me so much. It was amazing. I've never seen anyone. I've played with some great drummers in my time, don't get me wrong. It's phenomenal. How he done what he did with 3 drums, and it's fucking mesmerising. I just stand there open-mouthed in rehearsal rooms and stuff. It's like, how the fuck's this guy doing that? He's possessed by the devil or something, The legend of, before I joined the band, he'd put his arm through a plate glass window and severed some tendons. And they had gigs, and he did the gigs one-handed. And pulled it right off, man. Just no different, That's how good that guy is.
Yeah, and Pete Townsend tried to steal him for his band, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It apparently do some anti-heroin benefit they played in London or something. And yeah, he wanted him. But I can see why, because he had all that. If you can think of like Keith Moon and John Bonham and all these people, Clyde Stubblefield all rolled into one. That's Reni. There's nothing that guy couldn't play. He could play in anybody's band and make him sound brilliant, you know.
The Empress Ballroom in Blackpool, Alexandra Palace, and of course Spike Island, 3 massive moments in Roses history. What stands out most from those nights? The atmosphere, the crowd, or that feeling on stage when everything just clicked?
Well, we took risks and booked out halls that were bigger than we thought we should have been playing at that time, but we went do them. And you know, it's like one of them, book it and people will come, you know, that kind of vibe. And so the Alexandra Palace thing, sound-wise, it was absolutely bobbins. But as an event to get people together, which was as important to us as the actual show, it was getting people together under one roof with a light mind and yeah, bringing people together. You know, unity. Even though some of the gigs weren't the best, you know, sound-wise, like Spike Island was absolutely shocking. No one budgeted for the wind on a fucking river estuary, blowing the sound that way when the crowd went that way. That was a bit strange. But Blackpool especially felt like a launch pad. Yeah, Blackpool felt like a real springboard moment for us. That was insane. And a lot of people put that down as that's where it really started to happen for us, you know, from that night. And it was a strange one, that, because went from the euphoria of that gig to by the time I'd walked from the stage to the dressing room door, I got told my fucking mate had hung himself the night before. He was supposed to be coming to the gig. So I went from up there to down there right quick. And that was a strange one. But aside from that, musically, it just felt like we'd booted it, not had the door open, we'd booted the door open for us and whoever else to get through it. You know, once again, taking chances, booking out venues which you would never have thought you could fill, and filling them, and could have filled them 3 times over, you know, make it an event for people. So it still talks about these gigs, good or bad, still talked about 30 odd years later, you know.
Yeah, well, there was even a film made about Spike Island a few years ago.
Yes, my mate wrote it, Chris, about the young band trying to get in there. That was pretty strange, and going down there and filming and trying to reenact the gig and stuff. That was a bit bonkers, you know.
Manny, then there was the notorious paint attack on FM Revolver Records. What really happened that day? What was the conversation in the van before or after? What was the plan?
The single Sally Cinnamon Ride was before my time. Lovely piece of music, absolutely adore it, love playing it. So this company, FM Revolver in Wolverhampton, who had done a single deal with them, on the back of the subsequent success of like Elephant Stone and She Bangs the Drums and Made of Stone, they kept re-releasing it and re-releasing it and re-releasing it, you know, blatantly cashing in. But the straw that broke the camel's back was they cobbled together this video, didn't they, with street scenes of Manchester and fucking pigeons and, you know, shit. And it was basically, it was denigrating our fucking arts, you know, as we saw it. And we'd asked him nicely, this Paul Birch character, don't stop this, Cash, stop it. No. Did he listen? No. And let's bring this out, and it's charted on it, and it's fucking all the videos getting shown everywhere. So we were heading down to Rockfield Studios to begin a recording session, and our like tour manager stroke roadie, Steve Hadge, picked us all up and we said, right, we just need to stop at fucking Fad's DIY in Northern before we get on the motorway. Oh, what? I said, oh, John's doing some art when we're down there, right? So they've gone in, they've loaded up on these fucking 5-litre tins of fucking gloss and whatever, this, that, and the other. And we said, oh, we just need to stop at FM Revolver for 2 minutes on the way through. You know, we cut off the M6 and cut through Wolverhampton onto the M5 towards Wales. So anyway, he's pulled up and said, get the fucking engine running, right? And we've gone to the front door and rung the door, and I don't know whether it was Paul Birch's girlfriend answering the door. We went, it's Paul, and she's shouting when Paul's come down the corridor. I think John Squire's wallop let him have it with a 5 litre tin of blue gloss right in his skipper. Then Reni's had him with a tin of white, and then everyone was just running around the offices like knocking things all over and throwing paint everywhere. I didn't have anything to do with it, of course. It wasn't my beef. I was outside biting the coats, like you do. And then next thing it's run out and drive, and we're off down to Rockfield, fucking old laughing giddy as you like. And we've got down to Rockfield, and it was Black Sabbath we're loading out, and we've done that. There's fucking paint everywhere. Fucking hell, what are you lads been up to, And we've just been to this record company offices and fucking paid them a visit and explained that we weren't very happy with them. Oh, poor Birch, we hate that cunts, you know what I mean? So they was the guy. So anyway, we goes to bed. The next morning, there's the crunching of tyres on gravel in this courtyard outside. And I peeked out my curtains, and it's the old bill, and it's the police. And I've just, oh, fucking shit. I've watched in turn all three of them getting led out in handcuffs, put in the police cars, and I didn't answer my door. I went and handed myself in later on in the day. And then we were charged, driven up to Wolverhampton overnight, and appeared in magistrates the next morning. Subsequently, it goes to Crown Court, after a little while. And I think one of Ian Brown's girlfriend at the time, sister, was a barrister, and her husband was a barrister, a high-ranking, who's gone on to be a judge. And he said, "Oh, fucking hell, you've got Michael Mock QC, who's presiding over your case. His nickname is Maximum Mocks, right? Because he loves to fucking punish people." Anyway, he really wanted to give us a custodial sentence that day. And as we're driving down the motorway to court, all we were doing was going, "How are you going to stop yourself getting fucking bummed in the showers?" All formulating our plans for how we're going to not get fucking raped that evening. But some guy, I was going to be overcome like fucking John Edmund. "Oh, well, I'm sailing, I'm not been around the block a bit, And eventually, the judge has said, "Look, I'd have no hesitation in giving you a custodial sentence, but I think that would enhance your careers more than, as a deterrent." So I think he fined us $3,000 each, and then there's probably about 25 grand's worth of damages, which we considered money well spent. The guy got the message. Don't fuck with the Roses, man.
And after that, One Love became your highest charting single, the last before the legal battles kicked in. So how frustrating was it to have that momentum stall just as the band was peaking?
Basically, kill the band. You try and regenerate that momentum, which is lost. The injunction was we couldn't even fucking rehearse or record or anything, And the deal they got us to sign was such a shyster deal. Like I said, we knew we'd be going to court with them, but it was such a really horrible deal that we signed because we just wanted to get the music out, and we knew where we were going to be. But yeah, to have the wheels taken off the vehicle in mid flow was terrible, and we give it a good shot to try and regenerate it. It's horrible to sat on your hands for a few years, and everyone goes on about, "Oh, the lazy bastard, this Roses, they did, we can't be asked." Nothing of the sort. We were legally not allowed to do things for a hell of a long time. So we give it a shot. We come together and started writing bits for the second coming. And I think the mistake we made there was we tried writing whilst in the studio. So we spent pretty much nearly a year in Rockfield in Wales. And there was all manner of shit going on behind the scenes, fucking people falling out, just the problems, family problems, people having kids, and the gang began to drift apart slowly, which happens, It's like you're in a 4-way marriage, and after a couple of years, the way someone eats the fucking beans on toast gets on your tits, you know what I mean? But we give it a good go. And the second coming came together. It was a tough grind, that one. And I think it was judged quite harshly, quite unfairly at the time, because people were probably not expecting us to do what we did. We'd gravitate to a heavier sound, and that was just us not repeating ourselves. Like I've said all along, we'd try something different. So we followed a more rocky approach, and there's some great songs on there. Listening back now, a lot of people are going, "Oh yeah, we get it." Bit too late, but I think it stands up. There's a couple of songs I really can't bear to hear on there, but for the most
What are
part,
they? What songs are they?
well, I really don't like "How Do You Sleep." It's not the song; it's what I played on it. Just fucking sounds shit, mate. Could have done so much better with it, but that was it. Do as good as you can at that time, and if you don't like it, well, move on. So then we managed to struggle through that tour to tour that album, basically to pay back the £2 million advance Geffen had given us. And we did that, and we ended up doing the full tour and getting fuck all at the end of it. Then John decides he's out. Everything was a bit too fractious within the band, and we just weren't getting on really very well. And so he's decided to go. Obviously, Reni had gone ages before, and we got Robbie and Nige in to cover. And I stuck with Ian out of a sense of loyalty because he's a real good friend, and I couldn't walk away from him at that time because I've loved the guy so much. And I stayed with him, and we ended up culminating in a few gigs in Europe, which weren't brilliant. And then the Reading gig, which was just, if the ground could open up and swallow me now, I would ask it to do so. It was a fitting end to the band, let's put it that way. And it was the coup de grace. It needed putting down, and I think that gig just let us all know that it ain't there. Let's stop it. Subsequently, Ian's gone on to do a fucking great solo career for himself. We'll get to that in a minute. Where I went, Reni went to bed for a good few years. John was off doing his Seahorses and what have you himself. So that was the end of phase one of the Roses, which was like a fucking hurricane. And only when it ended, personally speaking, did I realise, fuck me, man, we were big, and we had such a chance there. And it's what I always say about the Stone Roses, 2 or 3 times now we've snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. So there's snatched defeat once, one. That's number one.
Well, I personally loved Second Coming when I first heard those spreads, when I first came out. I loved that. But do you think if the legal fight hadn't killed the momentum, Second Coming might have sounded closer to the loose groove-driven feel of Fool's Gold and Something's Burning, One Love?
Yeah, well, do you know what? Them 3 songs you've mentioned, especially, and Where Angels Play, should be really be second album songs. So you listen to those, and you know where we'd have gone. And it's only that 5-year hiatus that we've leapfrogged onto something else. But the songs you just quoted there are exactly where we were headed. That's what we were coming out with now. So I think that would have been like 4 fucking songs off a second album almost. And I'd have been happy to be continuing in that vein, not such a radical change so quickly, but a change enough, you can see where it's moving somewhere else, and not too much of a shock to the system like the Second Coming was. It was like, fucking hell, they've got moons and stars on the pants like Jimmy fucking Page now, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But those 4 songs that you've just mentioned, well, the 3 you mentioned, Where Angels Play, would be, I think, album 1.5. It's almost halfway there to where the second album would have been.
After the Roses, you joined Primal Scream. What did joining the Scream represent for you personally? Was it liberating creatively to go from the Roses world into Bobby's anything goes approach?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt less pressured in a lot of ways with Primal Scream. Less pressured to be pleasing other people who'd written the songs as to what they wanted, to click in with their vision. Now we had the freedom to do whatever the fuck I wanted. And I love the way the Scream works. Is no sitting mulling about over a track for 85 takes. Bish, bash, bosh, bang, down, move on. That's the main difference in how the Scream and the Roses work. Is the Scream were more immediate, and the Roses were more calculating about making sure everything was correct. I think the Scream, they embrace things being flawed, whereas the Roses were more of the quest for perfection in many ways. And I like the way the Scream works, and they give me free rein, and I just felt like it was a weight off that I wasn't having to perform under somebody else's guise constantly, you know, and yeah, it was a freedom and it's great. And 16 years I was with that band for, you know, it's in the blinking of an eye. That's how long it was. Made 5 or 6 albums with them, I think. And, you know, the output was great. Every 2 years we'd have a new record out, which sounded nothing like the last one. And it's a real experimental vibe about the Scream where they like pushing boundaries and doing the unexpected. And, you know, if you look at Vanishing Point, which was quite cinematic and quite dark, I think that's coming out of the Heroin Years album, which is like there's a bit of paranoia attached to that. And then moving on to the fucking Exterminator album, which is just bang. That's the awareness back in the band of like, Christ, we've been asleep, we nearly killed ourselves, and we're back and we're angry, kind of thing. It's a great piece of music, that, you know. And once again, in traditional fashion, Creation Records decided to be splitting from Sony right at the time as that was released. And guess what? Our greatest bit of work, it sank like a bloody stone. And it's such a lauded album. That's all we did. And we had Kevin Shields in the band and me in the band. And it was like being struck by lightning. I swear to God. Ennis from the Scream keeps sending me snippets of live gigs and stuff. And it's like, oh man, we was good, you know. We were really, really good. Not in a big any kind of way, but it's like, I've never seen anyone trying to attempt to do anything as vicious and political as you know, Exterminator was. It's worldwide. People love that record, and the band as a live entity at that point in time were untouchable, mate.
Yeah, your playing had so much groove and aggression in those records, you know. Was that them feeding you or you feeding them?
A bit about a symbiotic relationship there. My freedom to do what I wanted opened so many doors for myself, but also creatively for the band. And yeah, I became like a lead instrument in a lot of ways in that, and driving it and taking control a little bit sometimes, you know. I bet Bobby would look at me and go, yeah, fucking calm down, you little man. It's my band. You know? So I was a bit conscious of that. But it's like, well, there you go. There's the road. Walk it or run it as you see fit, you know.
On October the 18th, 2011, the Stone Roses announced the reunion after 15 years apart. Now, how far in advance did you know it was happening, and where were you when you got the call?
Well, we was on tour with the Scream, right? My mum had been ill in hospital, and I'd seen him on the Sunday, and then I said, right, Mum, I've got to go to London on Monday and start rehearsal. I'll be back on Wednesday. See you then. Went down there, rehearsed the Monday. Tuesday morning, wakes up, there's a phone call. Mum's dying. Come home. Mum had died. Went off on tour on the Thursday. So we'd started doing whatever bits of the tour in a bit of a blur like you do when you lost your mammy, you know what I mean? And we played in Manchester on a Sunday night, and it coincided with a day off the next day, which, how it works out, was the day of my mum's funeral, right? So as I'm in the lead car in the cortege behind the coffin, yeah, I look to my right out the window, and there's the Scream boys, and Bobby's just fucking cocked his head. And I looked over, and there's John and Ian fucking stood together for the first time in 16 years. And I looked, and Bob knew. And then I kind of knew, and I went, it's like, oh, fucking hell. On top of burying my mum, I've got to fucking deal with this dichotomy now, you know. And with the blessing of the Scream, you know, I fulfilled whatever gigs. When it was mooted that was going to reform, I said, look, I've been 16 years with this band. I'm not just going to drop them down. They've got gigs till the end of the year. I need to fulfill and do these gigs rather than just start straight away. I learned all the fucking Roses songs on my own, on my computer at home, you know. So I was ready to roll in the beginning of 2012. With the Scream's blessing, Bobby and Ennis just went, look, it's unfinished business. They knew, and I'd always said it was unfinished business. And I was always the one who left myself open to wanting to do it. I don't think John and Ian did for a good while. John was very happy doing what he was doing, and Ian's solo career was going off like a firecracker. You know, really good. I love Ian's solo stuff, but it was an inevitability, and it had to happen. And much as it hurt me to leave the Scream, who I felt right at home, and I had to go, and I had to rejoin the Roses, because for me it was unfinished business. Once again, we'd snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I wanted to fucking put that right. We'll get to that in a bit, But it just felt so good to be back in the room with them when we got down to rehearsing, and the same old banter was there. I think Ian Brown said to me once, it'll be different this time. I says, yeah, it will be different. It'll be a lot fucking worse, because there was always a bit of conflict, and when you get a couple of alpha males butting heads with each other and arguments, the unseen stuff of bands that goings on behind closed doors and what have you. It was great on the level of being in a room with those guys again and seeing that fucking magic of the four of us. The four of us. No one was working me with their foot in that band, and I was working nobody else. We all had to be fucking contained and self-reliant on bringing your bit to the table. The magic that we fucking, all four of us in the pot, give it a stir, boom, there it is. The power of four, and it was beautiful, and it gave me such a smile and a feeling of like, yeah, we can do this, and we can do it right now. Whereas so many outside influences had conspired to fuck it up in the first place, whether it be legals or drugs or fucking relationships breaking down or what have you. This time we've got a chance now to fucking start with a clean slate. And I think we played out of our fucking skins on these reform tours. As we did, we got the logarithm tables out every day in the thingy room, and we've been often called the laziest band in show business. But I'll tell you what, when we're in that room, we're fucking the hardest working band in show business. Every day for 8 or 9 hours a day, we'd be in there. Whether it be just having a laugh for a lot of the times, we're just in each other's company, but we was always bang at it. And we worked meticulously on those gigs. No stone left unturned. And those gigs I felt were fucking magnificent. And it caught us playing-wise, vibe-wise, the early days of the freshness and the newness of it all was different. You're never going to capture that. But I think playing-wise and the adulation from the crowd who'd been fucking waiting for it proves to us that we'd done a fucking very special thing back in the day. Let's give it him at full throttle now. When we're on the money, mate, playing-wise, on the money, totally. We did the songs that are magnificent. We did them so much justice. And we gave the love of the fans, which is everything to me. We gave that love back via playing the music to the best of our abilities. And it was a great, great tour.
You had also multiple generations singing those songs back to you that you'd written decades earlier, so that must have hit you. Amazing.
Yeah, well, when you walk on a Heaton Park and you're just saying, at the first few rows of, obviously, the kids of the generation who we'd affected back in 89 onwards, seeing their children, and that just reinforces the rites of passage of that first album, especially of how that will pass to subsequent generations, then passed out to the next generation. That could be one of them albums that's around and up there, like Forever Changes by Love or Never Mind the Bollocks or Dark Side of the Moon. These are albums that are always going to be relevant, and they're always going to sound fucking amazing. Those albums I just mentioned there, they don't sound dated whatsoever. And I'm so happy to be including a piece of work that I've been involved in that elite club for me,
You also recorded 2 new songs, All for One and Beautiful Thing, but fans were expecting a third album. Were there more tracks from those sessions that never saw daylight, or were those 2 songs just meant to be a statement, one last spark?
There's loads and loads of other bits and bobs that we were working on, but the situation between a couple of a band member and there was shit be going on behind the scenes. Whereas it would have been so easy to just leave your ego at the ego check, girl, and just get on with it. Get head down, arse up. I'm half Irish, and that's my mum's fucking motto. Get your head down and get your arse up. Do your work and get your money in the bank. No fucking hassle. None of that shit. If we could have done that without that, there would have been a new album. And I think, especially for, I don't want to speak for anyone else in the band, but John and Ian John really wanted us to validate the reform by recording new stuff. So it wasn't like seen as a blatant cashing, because it was not about the money ever for us, which is nice to get it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's giving my kids security for life and everyone else's kids security. But it was to validate it. New music had to be seen to come out. So the week of it was the gigs around about the 2013, I think. We had a little bit of free time, so we went into the church studios in North London with Paul Epworth. He was a fucking great guy. I've done work with the Scream with him. He was the right man at that time. He really wanted to do the full album, and I sold the guys on him. I said, I've worked with him before. He's fucking brilliant, and he's young, and he's dynamic, and he's up for it. So we went in, and both bish bash bosh, one day we knocked down All for One. That's done. Then there's another almighty argument with two particular band members who are at it. One of the band members fucks off, right? So we've got a full day in the studio with one of the band members down. So we're not to loop up, and then I've come up with a fucking bass line out of nowhere, which turns into a beautiful thing, right? So I just start throwing that down. Meanwhile, John and Ian's ears have pricked up. John starts writing a guitar line, and then Ian starts writing a vocal line. And that was the kind of instant composition, the way the Scream used to work. And we knocked that beautiful thing together in a day, less than a day, just three of us. And that's like, that is how I like to work. When no one's guiding me or telling me what they want me to do, it just came flying straight out of me, my head, that bass riff, which the song's built around, that came out of my head, nobody else's. And it was good. And it was like, I think that gave John a bit of hope that fucking hell, yeah, we can write an album. Instead of nitpicking and over the minutiae of stuff, open yourself to just let it flow out here. When music's forced, it's fucking I can tell it. If it's free, it flows. Beautiful thing was that freedom in music, which I'm talking about.
Yeah, I love that track. I love both those tracks. So were they the only two complete songs that you finished from the sessions? I
think Ian ended up with one or two of them on his next solo LP. I forget the name of it now. I've got that's full of stuff of half bits and bobs, and I've got stuff from years ago that was never seen the light of day. There were other tracks. First World Problems, that was the one that Ian released, wasn't it? That was, yes. It was radically different than how we were jamming it out. But Ian thought, well, I've written this song, I've written his vocals, fucking use them. You know, there is to use them. And I think there's probably some other stuff there. But the plan is to record, but we got ourselves, once again, snatched defeat from the jaws of fucking victory, didn't we? And we shot ourselves in the foot creatively by, there's a bit of ego that should have been fucking left outside of the room, because that just destroys things. And I don't know whether it was a certain person's fear of the unknown. I don't know. I can't quantize that at all. But it's such a shame. You know, we could have made an album. That was the plan. And I'd love to have done it. And now, from July 2017, I'm fucking sat on my hands, mate. I never was out of work from 1986 to 2017, apart from the odd holiday. And now that's been snatched away from me again, and I miss it. I'm beginning to get the itch again now. I've been through a lot in my personal life and watched my wife die of cancer a couple of years ago, and my own health's not brilliant. I've struggled a bit during some of the reform tour when I've got fucking COPD, you know what I mean? My fault for smoking all that weed when I was a kid, you know. But I'm getting the itch again, you know. I am getting the itch, and people are saying, oh, why don't you reform the band, this, that, and the other? It's like, well, it's not for me to say. All I'm saying is I'm always an open book, and I'm always open to anything. I never shut doors, you know. Who knows what's around the corner? I've been in touch with a kid recently who's sending me some songs, so rather than just jamming with one of my twin boys, who's actually very good, pension plan B, I call him. He's gonna be a magnificent player, him. I'm open to working again now. I feel I need to do something. I'm bored. When I'm bored, I either A, drink and get smashed, or B, go to work. So I've given up drinking and I don't get smashed. I want to go to work now.
And when was the last time you spoke to Ian, John, or Reni?
I saw John a couple of weeks ago at Oasis in London. I see John and his family a lot. I send him daft stuff all fucking week and he sends me daft stuff back. And we're godparents to each other's kids and stuff like that. So there's more of a family bond with John at the moment. Ian I speak to quite often on WhatsApp and speak to his parents more than I speak to him, to be fair. But there was pass messages on. Ian's gone underground a bit, which leads me to believe that there may be something going on, but don't quote me on that. Reni, I think I've seen him twice since July of 2017. He's very much his old guy. He's a quite reclusive, quite secretive, but he's always. I still send him stuff every now and again, just to check in. But I'm damn honest. I just never burned bridges and I never closed doors, And I hope they're all doing. I hope he's doing okay because I think about him a lot.
Ian's line at Heaton Park, "Don't be sad it's over, be happy that it happened," has become symbolic. When you look back, what's the moment from that period that still makes you smile the most?
Was on stage at Heaton Park, right? It's a bit crass, this, but it's a funny little aside. And every now and again, Ian comes sauntering over, checking in, and I'd go, Ian, come here, come over. About 3 songs in, and went, "There's 100 grand." And about 3 songs later, I call him over again, and went, "500,000 now." Fucking laughing at the futility or stupidity of the amounts of fucking money was going to get paid. We were never fucking bothered about money ever. And we're just fucking joking about it and laughing on stage whilst playing a gig to 80,000 people. Fucking joking about how much money we just earned for that song. Just fucking, we're a bunch of, we could have been comedians outside of that music rehearsal studio. Everybody in that band had fucking dropped dead funny. Did have an impression of somebody 1 second after they walked out of the room or some mad fucking quip. Kings of comedy, mate.
You've lived through all the madness, but there's another side of you that's rooted in family and home. In 2019, you were honoured with the Maid of Athy Award from your mum's hometown in Kildare. Yeah. So what did that recognition mean to you? Not as a lad from Manchester, but as part of your family's Irish roots? Well,
brilliant. And I went over to the unveiling of this plaque. The backstory of this is my mum's from a little village called Maganey, which is near to Castledermot in the bottom end of Kildare, where it meets Carlow and Laois. A family grew up there. Here's one for you. There's a school, a church with a graveyard, and a row of 8 houses. So my family, the Farrells, lived at the house number 2, and 5 doors up, fucking Johnny Marr's mum was brought up there. So the Stone Roses and the Smiths have fucking come from this same little, it's a dot of a village, mate. Not even a pub there, which is unusual for Ireland, yeah? So this guy, Colin, got in touch with me and said he was doing a thing where he was tracing musicians' roots back to Athy or the area around there. And it turns out it was me, Johnny Marr, John Marr from the Buzzcocks, the drummer. I think Johnny Cash's fucking grandparents was from around there. Neil Hannon had some connection to there. There's loads of people had a connection there. So we got invited over. And there was a place called the Emigrants Bar in Athy. It's where the bus used to leave to take them to Dunleary and then onwards to the mainland, yeah? And it was where they'd have the last beer in the fucking hometown before they was off. So they've down these blue plaques put up outside for people from the music business who could trace the lineage there. And I took I've got twin boys, Gene and George Mountfield, and the missus was still with us. So we went over and I got to show them where their Irish side of the family, their heritage, they're pretty much all dead now. There's only 1 or 2 left of the Paddy side of my family. And they were like, God almighty, look at how small these houses are. Or, God, is that where they all went to school? And they, from being city kids to seeing the backwaters of leafy old Kildare and where it all happened. They said, without this, there's no you guys. And it was lovely on that lovely for them to make that connection with their Irish roots. I'm fiercely proud of my Irish descent, not in an American over the top way, but it makes me what I am, and I'm fiercely proud of, vehemently proud of it.
Did that moment in a thigh feel like your mum was there with you in some way?
It did, and it's like a closing of the circle in a lot of ways, and an introduction of the next generation of the family to the old, to the past. So there's a connection and a link made there. Now they're always conscious of the fact that they've got Irish in them, and I think that's doubly important. You've got to know your past to be able to feel confident in your present and how you're going to go into the future.
Finally, Manny, if someone was discovering the Stone Roses for the first time, which 5 songs would you point them toward to truly understand who you were as a band?
He Bangs the Drums, Fool's Gold. Do you know what, right? I really love Good Times off the second coming LP. Don't know why. And also, one of my favourite songs that I've ever loved to play is Mersey Paradise. It's just got such great melody, and it's a great tune. This is the one because of my United connection. United come out, and I'm a fucking mental Man United fan. Don't know whether you've ever realised that, but my team comes out to our song every home game now, and that's the old chest puffs up a little bit there. There's a little bit of pride, I said to the kid, "That's your dad." That he went, "Yeah, you fucking knobhead," But so, well, this is putting you through school, so.
Manny, thank you so much for today. You've given this honesty, humour, and heart. The real story behind the legend. I think listeners will feel that too. This is one of the shows. The one episode that definitely shows the man behind the music.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Well, do you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure to do it. And I've been a long time not coming over to the north, man. I'll bring my kids over. Oh, it's amazing, mate. I love it there. I've been poured onto the plane so many times after I've used to do DJ gigs for my mate Michael used to do this hydroponic DJ nights, and I've nearly been fucking divorced several times. I've been to Belfast in particular. Getting led astray, not kicking and screaming neither,
Yeah, well, it'll be great if you could come back over sometime.
Oh, I love it. I'll buy you a pint. I'll have a cup of tea with you. Good stuff, mate. Well, I'm glad to do it for you, man, yeah?
Thank you. Appreciate your time, man.
I'll look it up in Belfast if we come over, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant, mate.
Take it easy, mate. Have a good day.
Take it easy, boss.
Bye, Manny.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.